Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Morning still. Tell you what, getting up early does sets my clock all funny. When I've been up this time, it's normally afternoon. So, right. Well, thank you for coming. It's always good to see folks at the shows. It's so important, I think, to get everybody coming together and seeing everything, keeping the community alive. So, it's been quite a busy period for us at RComp. Doesn't help that I did this earlier this year and messed it up at the Southwest show. So I was working out for the Commonwealth Games, and I was trying to go for the main events, but ended up qualifying for the Paras. So unfortunately, computer fixing wasn't an event, so no trip to Australia for me. Instead, I've been doing computery things, so it's probably better for the RISC scene that you know. But right, so where should we start? Let's start at October last year, because that way we cover everything that's happened since Wakefield last year. London last year saw the release of NetFetch 5. As with Messenger Pro 8 that's launching at Wakefield today, big emphasis on security and compatibility with the rest of the world. As you may have noticed, security is becoming a watchword in the media of late. And when it comes to email and things, a lot of internet providers, especially abroad, but more and more so in the UK as well, are demanding that we use SSL for more or less everything. So NetFetch and Messenger both see big improvements to SSL capability, so that email can be fetched and sent securely encrypted from your RISC machine, and we've tested it with many internet providers both here and abroad, particularly in Germany, because everything is encrypted in Germany these days. I think there was some sort of governmental thing after they thought the Americans were spying on them, so they said, right, everybody's email gets encrypted from now on. So it's been a good testing ground, and we've seen that sort of with older versions we had a little bit of SSL support, and maybe sort of a couple of things were working, and then with version 5 we got that up to sort of about 80%, and then with we did a 5.03 after Christmas, and that got it to 100% compatibility with all the services that we were testing with. So obviously that's quite a big step forwards in terms of what the world is now demanding, and keeping everybody on RISC doing email and things. Messenger Pro 8 launches at the show, and again takes a lot of that forward. We're also seeing an emphasis on the ability to use multiple email addresses. So if you have more than one email address, perhaps you have one with work and one at home, or one, maybe you're secretary for a club and you have your club email and you've got your personal email. Quite often, in order to avoid messages being flagged as spam, it's important to actually make sure that messages are sent through the right channels now. There's a lot of technology out there in the interweb, as it were, that tracks where emails have passed through. And if an email is supposed to be from address X, but it hasn't passed through the servers that are normally associated with address X, then it will get flagged up as being potentially spam. You don't want that happening to your messages. So one of the big enhancements that we've introduced in Messenger 8 and in tandem with the NetFetch 5 is the ability to route emails intelligently through servers and actually identify yourself to those servers dynamically as whatever they're expecting you to see. So for example, when I send an email from RComp, I can tell it to go through the RComp mail server and pretend to be RComp, even sort of reconfiguring the machine on the fly to identify itself as being RComp. But then I can also put on a different hat. For example, I can put on my RISC development hat and send it through the RISC development's mail transparently through the RISC development's mail server. My computer pretends to be a machine that is on the RISC development's network, and so everything checks out. And all of that is done dynamically by the software. So as far as the software is concerned, as far as you're concerned, you just say, hi, when you compose your email, you just choose who you're writing the message from, just as you normally would, and then the software will take care of routing all of that messages through the appropriate servers, changing your computer's identity as necessary to meet the requirements of the different things. It sounds all very convoluted and complicated, but basically it's completely transparent in use, meaning that your messages get to where they need to be, don't get flagged as spam, and everybody's happy. So those were the big steps forward with NetFetch and leading into Messenger 8. Messenger 8 has come about primarily, we were planning to do it sort of originally over the summer this year, but it's been brought forward a little bit because of the need for compatibility with RISC Open's 5.24 release. That was going to demand some updates to the software anyway, so it made sense that since we had 90% of the work done, we might as well do the last 10% of the work and get the product out to coincide with 5.24. So basically, you've got things like the SSL support, you've got tying in for the multiple email addresses that I talked about, you've got the compatibility with 5.24, you've got, I've got to now think mentally through all the new features. We've improved the handling of HTML and HTML emails with pictures, particularly, so that now that when you open those, you can either obviously open them locally and see them in HTML, or users of our Uniprint can also just double-click on the files, and again, it'll pass all the correct attachments and things through to Firefox or Chrome or what have you to smooth the experience with HTML. And obviously some sites that won't work, if you get an email from a site that is not RISC-OS friendly, then that makes it really simple to read their emails and then click on the links and go to the sites that you need to do. So it's basically just completely smoothing that experience, both in RISC-OS and for users of Virtual Acorn, Uniprint, etc. There are improvements to the ability to reply to emails with formatting, line length, handling of long URLs, handling of certain characters in URLs, improvements on the user interface and setup, so it's now much easier. If you're doing a first-time setup in Messenger Pro, it guides you through all the POP and SMTP configuration of your mail servers and things, all streamlined. New users will see improvements to the POP and SMTP capabilities out of the box. And Messenger Pro 8 also includes a key for the Windows and Mac versions of Messenger Pro, which are on the CD. So you can actually take advantage of the whole Messenger Pro ecosystem with the one CD. This is particularly nice because one of the features that people often forget about with Messenger Pro is that it can also act as a mail server. So if you do your email in Messenger Pro on RISC-OS, you can, at the click of a button, share that email around your home network. So for example, a single Messenger Pro 8 CD will allow you to download your email on your RISC-OS machine, and then share it around the network and access it from your Windows or your Macintosh machine, using the supplied copy of Messenger Pro if you wish, or from the same CD, which is obviously quite a nice package. There's a few more things. There's a full feature list on the stand. The CDs are available today, cost £25, and or you can there's a download version on Pling Store as well. So Messenger Pro 8. We'll do the next thing we'll do is the announcement of our little announcement that we made on the internet and on the RISC-OS open forums. You're looking at this thing and you're sort of probably looking at you can see there's a little eye cogwheel which is ARMX6, and it looks like an ARMX6. I normally come to the shows and I normally bring my ARMX6 in and do the talk. But today I'm not using an ARMX6, although it looks like an ARMX6. I'm using this. It's 2 inches cubed. You can come and have a little peek at the end. I've got rather more cables plugged into it than I actually need to have. You don't really need all this paraphernalia. It's more to sort of show off what you can do with it. On the stand, I'm actually powering it from the monitor, so you don't even need a power lead for it. Basically, as somebody described it today, and I think it's quite a good analogy, it's what you get if you put an ARM-X6 in the washing machine. It's an entire ARM-X6, essentially, minus the bits that obviously wouldn't fit. No CD drive, wouldn't fit. No card reader, how about that big, wouldn't fit. And if you just use the little box, it's built-in storage rather than an SSD, because the SSDs are about that big and the unit's about that big. So there's a little physics problem there. But apart from that, it's a complete ARM-X6. Same clock speed, same amount of RAM, same connectivity. SATA, yep, no problem. This little unit is an SSD connected by SATA. You can see, again, if you look at the thing, the SATA SSD. And if I unplug it, I promise it'll disappear. I know I could be fudging that with a USB device, but I promise I'm not. I could show you if I control F12 and type USB dot. No, USB DEV dot. There you are. USB hub, Logitech USB keyboard and mouse receiver. So if I do devices, which is how the SATA devices show up, you'll see there's 120 gig, 119 gig SSD shown there. So if it's not on the USB, by process of elimination, it must be on the SATA. So as you can see, all the features of an ARM-X6, but in 2 inches, at half the price. So, not a bad deal. And as I say, you can power it off more or less anything. USB port works, so however you want to do it, put a keyboard mouse receiver, you're all set. Internal storage, you can go up to 128 gig, probably go higher, but or you can add an SSD for full speed performance if you want to. So really, it's down to the to you guys to figure out what you could where you could put a 2-inch computer. Answers on the no, probably. So as we say, a little announcement, but a fun new bit of hardware, and as I say, it helps us lower the barrier of entry into the ARM-X6 ecosystem. That an ARM-X6 at $699, we can't do anything on the price because thanks to Brexit, all the components have got more expensive. So the profit margins are, well, you'd expect at this point in its life, profit margins would be going up, but they're actually going down. So there's no real movement that we can do on an ARM-X6. But what we can do is introduce this new model at a more affordable price, which means that the barrier for entry to get in, to get ARM-X6 level performance, is considerably lower. And the beauty of this, I mean, we got this tiny little thing. We've got it plugged into the big giant monitor on the stand doing 3440, 1440 giant resolution. Not a problem with the HDMI port. It's got the full capabilities to go up to 4K resolution in a tiny little box. So I mean, you can put it just put a piece of Velcro on the back of your TV. So yeah, so that's our new little computer. Other new products at the show, we've announced a new version of SafeStore. It's not quite made it for the show because Alan's been beavering away on it, but it was either do we get a sort of buggy version for release at the show, or do we actually get the bugs fixed and just delay it for a week? And we decided it was better to actually delay it for a week and get it where we wanted it to be. So what we're doing at the show is allowing people to upgrade to early access version. It's the version 3 is primarily a response to feedback from users and using it in some of our commercial customers' installations where they're backing up to network storages every day, or even every hour in some cases, over a variety of different network filing systems or external filing systems, and all sorts of weird and wonderful oddities crop up with different network device characteristics and things that work, things that don't work. You wouldn't believe the different permutations and combinations that people come up with. So basically, for the last probably year, Alan's been fine-tuning different aspects of the software, improving logging, improving how it deals with the problems that can occur in the real world. And the net result is a much more robust, much more effective backup solution. And over time, we're expecting to add a recovery tool. Traditionally, SafeStore hasn't really needed a recovery tool because most of the backup methods are involve cloning. So what you get on the other drop, you restore your backup just by dragging and dropping the files back. But some of the backup modes, like the incremental and generational backup types, would benefit from some sort of recovery tool. So that's on the cards for later on as part of the early access upgrade to SafeStore. The other product that didn't quite make it for the show is version 3 of our Pi-Fi product. For those unfamiliar with Pi-Fi, it lets you turn a little Raspberry Pi board into a wireless receiver for your RISC-OS or other computers. Basically anything that doesn't have built-in working Wi-Fi, you can use a Raspberry Pi, hook it up to a network port, and gain Wi-Fi access for whatever device you plug it into. You could also plug it into a network hub, and then you'd be able to access any machine that's connected to the hub would then be able to access the Wi-Fi. So you can use it to bring as many machines as you like online with Wi-Fi. That much Pi-Fi has always done. What Pi-Fi 3 is all about is, well, firstly, the Raspberry Pi 3 has appeared, which is a jolly convenient little device because it adds built-in Wi-Fi onto the Raspberry Pi. So Pi-Fi can just, instead of having to plug in a USB Wi-Fi receiver, the off-the-shelf Pi will do all you need in the actual board. Indeed, Chris Evans came up to me at the beginning of the stand and said, Andrew, I've got some old Raspberry Pi 3s with Wi-Fi that I really want to sell cheap. Could you drop into your talk that I've got some cheap Raspberry Pis? So there you are, Chris. I have told everybody you've got some cheap Raspberry Pis, but I mean, you probably knew he had Raspberry Pis anyway. If you didn't, he's not been doing his job. But anyway, there we are. So Pi-Fi turns Raspberry Pis into Wi-Fi and gives RISC-OS machines that don't have Wi-Fi access to Wi-Fi. The beauty of Pi-Fi 3, apart from Raspberry Pi 3, is that it makes that as seamless as Wi-Fi on a Windows PC or an Android device or something. That is native RISC-OS interface, no need to muck around in a web browser configuring these things. Got a little Pi-Fi application, click on it, pick on your resolution, pick on your Wi-Fi network, and it'll show you your signal strength and so on and so forth, just like you would on Windows or Mac or whatever. And then it will use the Pi-Fi to actually do all the work. Can't show you it because the developer turned up at the show this morning and said, here, it's 90% completed, but the user interface is, I broke it last night and I haven't had a chance to debug it. So, slight problem. But basically, the API works, the Pi-Fi works, the desktop user interface is broken, which is why it didn't make it to the show. But basically, you can, if you want to, you can talk to me about placing orders, or you can phone me after the show, and we should have the product shipping in the next few weeks, I would have thought, all being well. And basically, short of having native Wi-Fi on RISC-OS, that's about as neat as you're going to get. And obviously, once configured, it still provides access to the whole network if you wish. What else have we been up to? Yes. Southwest Show saw the release of Quake, or re-release of Quake, depending on how you want to look at it, for RISC-OS. New version is massively faster. We launched a new version after the show, so technically new for this show, I guess, which is the first major piece of software for RISC-OS that takes advantage of the hardware vector floating point unit on modern ARM processors. For a long time, people have always complained about why doesn't RISC have hardware floating point? And for the last 5 or 6 years, we said, well, yes, since BeagleBoard, we do have hardware floating point. But of course, there hasn't been any software to take advantage of it. Quake is, I mean, we enhanced the ARMX6 disk build with a few little bits and pieces that did use the VFP built into the processor about 3 years ago. So there were a few bits and bobs, like I think GoScript is VFP enhanced, and the PDF viewing I think is also VFP enhanced. But it was negligible difference. It wasn't a sort of thing you could say, yeah, look, VFP, really, really fast. With Quake, you get about 3 times the performance. So it takes you up from sort of, well, in a practical sense, it takes you up from the kind of 30 frames a second that the console world would play a lot of their games at, to the 60 frames a second that the elite PC gaming crowd demands. In theory, you can go even higher than that. I think I've clocked in benchmarks at 90 frames a second with the VFP version, depending on resolution and everything else. But it makes quite a difference. And then what we've done is to say, right, we've got all of this extra performance. What are we going to do with it? So we provided users with the options to go up to push the resolutions higher, or you can enable widescreen mode, or you can have raw performance if you want that Twitch feel, or you can have a blend of the above. So if we just go into, where are we? Never find things when I want to find things. Quick. What did it explode when going through the projector? Hopefully. It's doing it on the screen. Okay, this is just running at a low resolution for this demo. It can run much higher than this. I think this is running in the sort of super smooth mode. You can see that there's basically no slowdown whatsoever. And if we do a demo, its clock is based on what a PC of the time would have tried to do. So you can see that it rattles through it. Like nobody's business. So for the first time, we're actually able to take advantage of the hardware of the modern machines. I know Quake's a lot old game, so I mean, I appreciate that there'll be a lot of you saying, oh, well, why are we getting excited about that? The point is that the performance, I think, if you compare it to when we released it on the RISC PC, we're seeing about a 30 to 40-fold calculated speed increase over the years. Just put some perspective on just what the difference is between our RISC PC hardware and modern hardware. I think it's even faster if you run it on a Time Machine or Titanium. So if you're still sitting there running a RISC PC thinking, you know, my RISC PC does all I need, 30 to 40 times the performance says otherwise. If we can't convince you with that and a machine this big, I don't know what we can. And of course, should mention that even with a tiny machine like this, all of our machines have software compatibility pretty much like no other. We can run right back to sort of Archimedes era software. We can do RISC PC era software thanks to Emula. We can obviously run the native applications. A lot of the Ionic stuff that doesn't necessarily translate over, that works too. So in terms of giving users the best possible compatibility, our ARMX6 and Time Machine families basically do as much as we physically can to allow everybody to run as much software as possible. And that's always been one of my yardsticks, that I'm a stickler for not losing software off the back end of development, that it's very easy to move forward at a great pace and forget that a lot of the user base still make use of software that may be 20, 25 years old. And yeah, you can just tell people every time they've got to buy new software, and got to do this, you can't have that, you can't have this, but hey, you can have a new thing. But what I like to be able to do is say, hey, we know you still want to run the programs from 25 years ago, here's how you can do that, but you can still have the latest and greatest developments as well. So the next few weeks, I mean, you'll hear RISC Open talking about 5.24 for the various machines. We'll be rolling out versions of the operating system with enhanced compatibility for all of our legacy machines as well. So just because I'm talking about ARMX6 and Time Machine today, we're going to be putting out operating system upgrades for our Harmony and our Harmony X families. Despite the fact that those are 7 and 5 years old respectively, we're still committed to keeping those machines updated with the latest developments. in a straightforward and easy to upgrade manner, whilst maintaining compatibility as much as possible with anything that they're already running. Right. Final thing while we're talking about the games, this one's a real daft one, an oldie but a goodie. Last year we updated Doom. The Doom pack that we're selling at the moment includes Wolfenstein 3D, which is a forerunner to Doom. The version that we were able to put out last year was just the RISC PC version. It could run under Emula if you needed it to, but it was not ideal. Thanks to some work by Jonathan Abbott of JASTP, we've been able to put together a proper ARM v7, ARM v8 compliant version of Wolfenstein as a free upgrade to anybody who bought the Doom pack in the last 12 months. You can buy the Doom pack at the show. I'm not going to run Wolfenstein on this because it's so low resolution that it's going to almost certainly blow something up somewhere. But it does work. It works with modern monitors with the necessary MDFs. It gives you all the bits you need with it to play Wolfenstein on the latest machines, and we've enhanced the game while we were at it. So it's now much more responsive to what you do in the game. So, for example, when you pick up items, there are sound effects for collecting the items at different frequencies, and the sound changes depending on what you collect. Previously, for some reason, the Acorn versions never indicated when you got shot. So you could be shot, and the only way you'd know would be your health percentage would go down. And if you were actually playing the game and just kind of concentrating on what you could see, you'd suddenly find yourself dead and not really know why. The new version actually flashes the screen to tell you where you've been hit and indicate where you've been hit. So if you're killed by somebody, it'll show you. Well, firstly, if you're shot, you'll know you've been shot, and if you're killed by somebody, it'll rotate the view to show you why you're dead, so that next time when you play, you won't hopefully get killed by the same guy. So overall, they're small improvements, but they improve the actual experience of playing the game quite considerably. When I first replayed the game without the improvements, I was was a bit taken aback as to it wasn't all that. I remember it being fun, and it wasn't all that fun in all honesty. These changes kind of made it feel good again. So I think that's probably where I need to stop. We've talked about NetFetch 5, we've talked about Messenger Pro 8, we've talked about SafeStore 3 Wi-Fi, we've talked about some very little things, we've talked about Doom, and we've talked about Quake, we've plugged CJ's Raspberry Pis. All that really leaves, I hope, is for you guys to ask me some questions and then call it a day. There's Mark at the back and there's the guy front. I think they've given it to the guy, but I'll get to you next, sir.
Andrew, point of clarification on Messenger Pro 8.
Yes?
You said it had been updated to take advantage of 5.24 and the new features in there. Does it run on older versions of RISC-OS, and does it have all of the features on older versions of RISC-OS?
Yeah, the answer is it's a good question, because my talk did not make that clear. Yeah, it works on any version of RISC-OS. It's not so much taking advantage of the features as ensuring compatibility with, because there have been some changes in 5.24 that can come back to bite software if you're not careful. Messenger Pro 8 just ensures compatibility, so that's why it's important to launch it today rather than in a couple of months' time. Because if people take away 5.24 today, they're going to want to have Messenger Pro 8 today to run on it. So it's a the reference to 5.24 is primarily one for compatibility rather than anything else. Gentlemen, two rows front.
Oh, right. My question is also on NetFetch 5. I use Hermes with Pluto very satisfactorily.
Right. Okay.
Does that combination still get all the advantages of improved security? In other words, are your features entirely within Hermes?
There are both Messenger and NetFetch have seen enhancements. Yeah. You're not losing. In terms of premium product, remains NetFetch.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're not trying to obsolete NetFetch or anything like that. Quite the opposite. So everything, all the good stuff is in NetFetch 5. If you're still running NetFetch 4, strongly recommend that you get NetFetch 5.
I've got 5.
You've got 5, then you're all set. Grab the latest, I think we're on 5.05. If you haven't grabbed 5.05 off Play Store, it should be a free upgrade. That's the one you want to get. And that will, you should have, I mean, there are certain things in Messenger that you will not get because you're running Pluto. Right. But you're not, in no way have we stymied you in any way. Everything that you can do with Pluto, you can still do with Pluto, plus the secure things that are in Hermes, etc., remain in Hermes. So you've got all of that.
Good, thank you.
As I say, what you don't get is the sort of where something relies on an integration of the two programs. Then obviously you're not going to get that, but that's additive rather than subtractive, if that makes any sense.
I do understand there are some limitations at it even now, but it's no problem. I'm happy with it.
Exactly, which is why we continue to keep developing them, and why we always try and keep NetFetch Hermes, if you like, a step ahead, because a lot of people run Messenger and Hermes, and other people run Pluto and Hermes. So Hermes ends up being, or NetFetch Hermes becomes the link between all of that, and so it's important that is the primary thing. Where Messenger Pro differs from Pluto for a new user is that Messenger Pro includes POP and SMTP capabilities out of the box without the need for another program to do that. If we figure that if somebody's paying 40 quid for an email client, they kind of expect that it should do all they need, and those capabilities are also enhanced along the road. So it's a case of ensuring that everybody has access to what they need, so that when internet providers enforce SSL, which more and more of them are doing, RISC-OS users don't fall off the end of the wagon, as it were.
Thanks.
Anybody? Any other questions, or are you all off to is it almost lunchtime? Yep.
So just a very quick one, really. What ports has the Minim got? I wasn't quite clear.
The Minim, it has several USBs. You've got SATA connection for the that's how I'm connecting the SSD, as we talked about. As I say, you don't have to have that. I can just unplug the SSD. That one. And the SSD disappears off the thing. It's kind of hot swap, so you can just literally plug it in. And because you can have 128 gig of storage internally, there's no particular need to have the SSD. But I had it hooked up just so you could sort of see all the functionality working. You've got power. You've got the HDMI port for the 4K display. You've got Ethernet port for network connectivity. The only thing you don't have basically is a headphone jack, for audio, which could be seen as a bit of a downer. But the idea is that you use HDMI audio for something like this. There is also technically an SP diff port. You can see the little red light. But RISC-OS doesn't really have any SP diff support, so it may be a kick up the backside to get that working. But again, you'd need a whole setup designed for SP diff to use that. And yeah, I mean, I've got the setup because I'm into home audio and that kind of thing, but I'm not sure all of you want to have an amplifier and speakers and all the other kit and caboodle next to your computer to utilize that. So HDMI audio is probably the most convenient for most people, I would have thought.
I think it's very impressive that it is.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe just how much stuff is on there. There's also a little slot in there as well that actually allows technically access to the internals, but probably need tweezers for that. Anything else? Oh, Malcolm.
I'm just wondering about the power. You were saying you could run it off USB.
Yep.
Is it micro USB to power it, or is it?
I just plugged in an ordinary USB port. I mean, it comes with a power cable that has USB at one end and a power at the other. So I just plugged that into on the stand. I just plugged it into the monitor, and so I'm just powering it from the monitor. So I powered the monitor, cable to the little box. Seemed better than trying to struggle to get. I could have taken the power cord's about this long, and I needed about twice that to get to the main power socket. So I thought, well, do it this way, and then I don't have to worry about how long the power cord is. For production units, I think we'd probably include an extra long cable anyway, because most people's PowerPoints are not that far from the from the computer, but that's what came in the box, so that's what I was using. But yeah, I mean, there's a flexibility there to power it more or less however you want, yeah, I mean, it's just remarkable what you can get in such a small size, really. And obviously, something like the ARM-X6, the operating system is mature. You've seen how we've offered all the updates over the years. We're on operating system update 11 for ARM-X6 at the moment, and it's effectively. I mean, the operating system is subtly different, but essentially it builds at the same time as the ARM-X6 operating system. So essentially, whenever an ARM-X6 operating system pops out, so does a unit for the Minim, and shares the same disk build. So essentially, users of you'll get the same experience there. And as I say, I think our track record on updates and support and software upgrades and things for the machines pretty much speaks for itself. So you get all of that with your purchase. So essentially you're buying into the ARM-X6 ecosystem, which is well established, but in such a tiny size. Okay. All right. If nobody else has got any questions, then... Oh, okay, yep.
I found it a very interesting story, but can I reserve room for you in Holland?
Sorry.
Can I reserve room for you in Holland?
Oh, reserve a room in Holland. I really had hoped this year the answer would be yes. I'd been trying to clear our schedule, but my next physio appointment, I've got a physio appointment and a scan for the thing in the first few weeks of May, so I'm not in a position to be able to leave the country at the moment because of the...
I understand that.
Plus my passport expired, but that's...
Okay.
I'm secretly hoping to get a blue one, but...